Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you are an Aries sun sign and you're interested or involved with somebody who is either a Pisces sun or a Pisces moon, even the moon sign can show up in the similar qualities as the sun in a relationship, I feel like. So I'm including the moon sign as well. And this is one of those combinations that can be a little bit tricky because you're talking about fire and water and what they represent. These are not two elements that are considered compatible. Fire is masculine and water is feminine. And, if you're talking about a man and a woman, the Aries person, if the Aries person is a man and the Pisces person is a woman, I think it works better than the other way around. I actually knew a couple where the woman was a Pisces and the man the woman was an Aries and the man was a Pisces. So the woman was the masculine sign, the man was a feminine sign, and it didn't work out. Not to say that this would be true 100% of the time, obviously not. You do have to look at other elements in the individual charts, and even just as human beings, we can't just act like the charts are the end all be all, but in terms of their dynamics, I was thinking to myself, an Aries person is so independent, and a Pisces person tends to be more of the dependent type. And I don't mean that in a pathetic sense of the word, but they just want that person, near them a lot. And the Aries person is very interested in their individuality and their freedom. So just by virtue of that kind of a desire, there can be a little bit of a rift or a conflict. But it was funny because this Pisces individual that I know, he was kind of atypical as a Pisces in many ways. And so even though he was more independent than other Pisces individuals might be, they still were not able to make the relationship work. And when you have quite different elements like water and fire, they always say water puts out fire. And basically what that can mean is that if water represents emotions and fire represents enthusiasm and expansion, the demands of the water sign can kind of weigh down upon the fire sign and make them feel like their spark has gone out, because they feel this sense of emotional smothering in many cases. And it doesn't have to be just Pisces, it can be Cancer or Scorpio. And so that in itself can cause a big rift or kind of a conflict between the two people, because the Pisces person may feel like the Aries individual doesn't care enough. And the Aries person's like, you have to find your own sense of confidence. You can't rely on me to be everything to you. So what would these two people even have in common? You may have met the Pisces person in some kind of a nightclub, because both of you might enjoy having fun and doing things like socializing. I do feel that Pisces, out of all the water signs, is the most gregarious in a lot of ways. I'm thinking of like the other water signs, like Cancer, ruler of the fourth house of home and family, so more of a homebody. And Scorpio, maybe kind of a loner. But Pisces tends to enjoy and be influenced by the company of other people. And I think sometimes maybe because Pisces is a mutable sign, it has that flexibility where it seeks out different, variety and wants that kind of change in scenery. And so you might have met the Pisces at an open mic or someplace where you were being creative, maybe, in a community theater or something like that. And both of you can have artistic gifts. Water signs are naturally gifted in that way, and fire signs are creative. And this may be common ground. Both of you are emotional, but there's a difference, okay? Because fire signs are passionate. I'm a Sagittarius, another fire sign. Leo's the other fire sign. We tend to have causes. Aries, you're like I was thinking of Don Quixote, having, championing the underdog and wanting to fight. It's kind of like the knight in shining armor kind of thing, where you want to help others or like be that savior in a sense, because you're ruled by Mars, and Mars is the god of war. And the warrior who is always trying to, show off their bravery and gallantry. And Pisces, if you're talking about like a male Aries and a female Pisces, you could be talking about the archetype of the Pisces woman as the damsel in distress. A Pisces woman can be very feminine and can make kind of like traditional and even a bit submissive, and can make the Aries man feel even more manly. And so there's that sense of the Pisces not minding that the Aries person is even kind of bossy sometimes, because if you were to be with a fellow fire sign, that person might be like, get the what out, don't tell me what to do. Or why can't we, alternate in choosing what movie to see? Why do you always have to have your way? That they'll challenge you. The Pisces person may be much more willing to kind of accommodate the more aggressive Aries. And so what would typically be like kind of a power struggle may not be present with Pisces. And so that can be a good thing, because you may have found in other relationships where there was a lot of pushback if you tend to be kind of aggressive. Now, where can it go, wrong? Well, Pisces, when I wanted to just mention when I said both signs are emotional, Pisces and the other two water signs are truly emotional, which means that they're coming from a position of their own experiences really conditioning their perception in life and triggering certain emotions. Now, that's going to happen for every human being to one degree or another, but some people it's going to be really constant, where they're very, I could put it this way: Pisces is very sensitive. Aries, you can be very insensitive. So it's one of those things where you might think that the Pisces person is weak, and you might think that they are overly sensitive and that they need to suck it up, buttercup. And the Pisces person may accuse you of insensitivity if they are forthright enough to be able to do that. And it may bother them that you can't see how they might be suffering. So your emotional natures may clash because, like I said, fire signs are passionate and that can seem emotional, but it's really quite impersonal and objective. You're more likely to get riled up about some story you hear on the news that brings up a certain situation that occurs in life than you are about your own personal feelings, because you just happen to be the kind of person that is can do, that you're always like taking action and thinking ahead, doing things like that, ambitious. And Pisces tends to be less like that. You may feel that Pisces is too negative, that they are a little bit like playing the victim in life, and you could get impatient about that, and you might say something that isn't very thoughtful, and that could offend them even further. So there's like these emotional differences that can lead to a lot of misunderstandings about each person. You might feel that they're too moody, that they're too insecure, and at first you might try to bolster them up because you have that positive thinking, but eventually it's almost like in the worst case scenario, if the Pisces person is a covert narcissist. You could be, well, I'm not saying you personally or whoever is listening to this, but a Pisces person could be a covert narc, and an Aries person could be a malignant narc if they are a narcissist at all. I'm not saying that either of your signs specializes in this, but, if this were to be, it would be like one extreme or the other, that you're both, one person's very self-absorbed and maybe like quite insensitive, and the other one is kind of draining other people with their emotional demands, and they're always blaming others, and they really don't want to change. Actually, narcissists in general don't want to change. So the Aries person, because they're so positive, it's almost like being that life coach for a person. Have you ever tried to cheer somebody up or try to give them hope, and it's like, why don't you? Yes, but they always have some excuse, and they almost get angry if you give them advice because they want to be in that victim mode. They don't want somebody trying to help them because then they would have to take responsibility for their own life. So that kind of game can go on, and you, Aries, might find that you're tired of propping up the Pisces, helping them. You're very generous, and you might be with somebody who just keeps being a taker and doesn't want to give to you. So the bottom line is that if both people are mature versions of the signs, then obviously it can work. But usually there's some undeveloped qualities in either one or both individuals, and then it makes it very hard for them to find common ground. So I hope that you found this useful, and if you would like a relationship reading, or even just as a single person looking for love, I have love readings for single people too, as well as natal chart analysis. Please visit RainaMoonAstrology.com. The link is below. Take care. Bye.